My content is intended for adult collectors of the product, not made for kids. Before we actually continue with this video, I do want to mention, a lot of people ask, oh, can I get a free Beyblade, whatever? We have a giveaway that is going on until February 13th, limited time. Be a subscriber of our channel, subscribe to the channel, show the channel some love, check out the giveaway video, cool chance to win prizes, or just stay a subscriber for more content in the future. Anyways, let's continue. Hello everyone! So for this video, this is the Beyblade Burst GT tier list. So this is going to be a pretty cool video just to do, just because I get to tackle something that actually was a while ago, which is pretty crazy. And also, just because, you know, since Pro Series is really just pushing on this GT stuff, I think it's a cool thing to talk about, because I get to really explore more in depth, or more depth than I originally have done in previous reviews of the GT series, to just cover it, to give my overall thoughts. Now, I didn't expect to do this, but I am doing it, and the issue is, I actually forgot how much content was released in the older stuff. I'm not used to it, because DB had a lot less, and Sparky had a lot less, and you know, they did less and less per season, and I was like, oh, uh-oh. But, yeah, I want to give a huge thank you to the WBO Discord. I actually did get help from a lot of people, like Wombat, Shindog, Think, a lot of people, and the list goes on. So just a huge thank you to the WBO Discord for the help and everything, just to really solidify this list. Now, obviously, this is not objective, right? I don't like doing, like, for tier list stuff, obviously, it's always, like, going to be subjective. There's some truth to some stuff for some parts, and some parts are really hard to rank because some parts are really bad, but maybe one part can be really good on something else, but only for that instance, and it doesn't mean in general, you know what I mean? It's just, it's a mess. So we're gonna get started with the driver section. So I'm gonna do so basically anything that's low tier, I'm gonna really just speed run talking, because it's not that important. For D, Liner Dash, Quake Dash. Both of these drivers are Season 1 drivers. You can maybe use it to meme, but they're not that effective, and anything else that's above it is either way more reliable or way more effective overall. Trick had the gimmick where essentially it would either be its stamina or it would switch to kind of more aggressive attack. This is kind of more like an anime thing where maybe it's really cool and it's really crazy in the anime, but IRL kind of just sucks. The power driver is kind of like Jaggy plus nothing. Kind of, because it kind of has, you know what I mean? So, I just think the thing is with power is that it's not really that good of an attack driver. The stamina is really not that impressive at all. So with C, holy crap, okay. With Charge just had a weak spring, and Charge Dash was a major improvement because obviously good spring, better burst resistance, and more likely to use. It was a pretty heavy driver, but the worry of using Charge was always the weak spring. So when Charge Dash came around, it was really nice. Yard Metal's issues, the same issue as the original Yard. The issue with that was basically that it was kind of just like the little plates that was around it that with the little free spinning ball. Too low, scraped way too much, and there are a lot better options. Hold Dash is like a cool attack driver. That's about it. Like, you only really use it on Zvire Judgment. So I think that can be said the same for Trans Dash and Jaggy Dash. Trans, you know, it has the options there if you want to use it for stamina or attack. Jaggy is, like, it's okay. Low's issues that, you know, Low people thought of it as kind of like, oh, maybe it's going to be really good because it's like a metal revolve or something. And the issue is basically destabilization, sadly. And I really do like the concept of Low. Reboot Dash is nice. I just think that Ultimate Reboot Dash is way better and way more consistent. The gimmick is obviously when you do the hard launch, it starts off like a little tall on the thing, and then after the thing presses down when you lose stamina, and it goes for like the whole flower pound thing. It's okay. It's an okay driver to use. It's not insane or anything like that. I think Ultimate Reboot Dash does way more of a service than this driver ever did, but it's there. Operate Dash you only really used on Judgment because obviously with the attack mode and how jumpy it is, it worked really well with Judgment. So cool thing is that this was like a meme combo, but it kind of worked. It's essentially just jump hit, use the recoil attack power of Judgment to push out the opponents with a KO. The issue with Keep is the same as Charge. It's just that the Dash variant offered more reason to use. I don't think Keep necessarily had a weak spring. I don't remember the spring on Keep. I just remember just the Keep Dash was used really, like people used Keep, but really used Keep when it was Keep Dash. Because the thing is, when you're going up against an attack type, burst resistance is key. So when Keep Dash came along, it improved the issue. Improved the issue. Doesn't sound right. It fixed the issue, and Keep was used a lot more because it was more able to tank the attack stuff and a lot more reliable in holding its ground. And Bullet. And if I didn't mention anything, it's either it wasn't that important or you don't need an explanation. Bullet's gimmick was a projectile. The projectile wasn't that heavy, and stamina wasn't really that special. And also, it was really hard to get out the bullets. Like, yeah, you can hard launch and it'll most likely... But it's not even that. It wasn't hard to even just get out the projectile. The issue was also that the projectile could just get KO'd very easily, and it was kind of useless, or it would just shoot into the pocket. I think this was really just used on, like, Perfect Phoenix because of a double projectile. So then after was B, basically, like, Generate, you could literally just use it on Stock Master, and you could actually win with it. I think Generate's thing was just that it was weight and it was aggressive enough where you could use it for KOing stuff. So Generate's gimmick is when you hard launch it, it'll be aggressive, and then after, when it has no stamina at the end, it goes in the stamina mode, though the stamina mode didn't really have that much, that great of stamina, so really it was just because of the aggressiveness at the start. It also has a very weird gap, but it was also kind of like a thing that you could kind of meme and kind of use. Dimension Dash, so Dimension had the gimmick of a rubber sharp and then after switching to flat, but the issue with Dimension Dash is that the rubber is not that durable and it wears pretty fast, so eventually you just have two modes where it is attack and attack again. I think Dimension Dash was really just for the options of varying heights for attack. Spiral Dash, I think with Spiral Dash, right? This is what I think. Spiral Dash, and I'm also going to be throwing in Assault Dash. So Assault Dash was really not used that well to my memory during the GT area. Like, Assault Dash was not used that well, it wasn't used that much in the GT era. But you could probably kind of maybe get the same use, kind of like Spiral. I don't think Assault Dash is that bad where it's in C, I just think it's kind of like a B- thing. I think, you know, you have to look at it differently for, you know, the eras, but for the GT era, it was like, okay. Spiral Dash was really just used on Imperial, I would say. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it was used for. Just for the aggressive low height that was able to pair it up with Imperial and its hard-hitting attacks. And then after Variable Dash could be just used on Judgment or Zwei, and it's better when it's awakened because of the aggressiveness, but also the weakness of self-KOing. And generally that's a weakness with attack-type drivers. If they're more prone to self-KO, less likely to be used, and also things like stamina and stuff like that. So now, with ANS, let's just get through it. Keep Dash is good at holding its ground and tanking attacks. And obviously the burst resistance is there. Orbit Metal, I think I like good stamina, also was a very solid defense driver. I remember it used on, I think you could use that on Tact, Left Master. It had really good use. It had really good use and viability on a lot. I think even I have seen it used on Zwei. Ultimate Reboot Dash is a good and aggressive attack driver. It's basically just reboot but good. Unite Dash was pretty good with KOs and stuff, and I like it. Hybrid and Ignition, these are both motor drivers, and I think the difference, what was it? So I think when you hard launch, I think Hybrid just goes through that cycle where it's like activates and speeds up even more or something like that. And then after Ignition was like that, but also would basically go in reverse. Both these drivers have high stamina, and when they're fresh, they are very, very good. Just high stamina, good for KOing stuff, and overall great use. Rise was actually a big surprise. Rise was very, very underplayed. Not underplayed. Well, you know, Rise was like severely downplayed. I think it was essentially just because of the fact that it was on Wizard and people just dismissed it because Wizard is Wizard, because of Wizard's one's mold of bursting. But Rise actually was pretty good for opposite spin stuff. I think really when it got worn and awakened, because when you even, you know, same spin you could maybe do okay, because when it's awakened and worn, you ride around the ridge like crazy. I think that's just a general thing, but you would ride around the ridge like crazy and you could potentially KO. Opposite spin was like nice to use. I think the general though, that same spin, it wasn't like that crazy. To my memory anyways, to my memory. But opposite spin definitely is where it shined, and this was like, it deserves respect. It deserves respect. Quick Dash is really cool because it's like the in-between of Hunter Dash and Extreme Dash for its shape. Now this was originally on Storm Pegasus' remake. Their reasoning was kind of BS because Storm Pegasus is rubber flat and that's just extreme. But Quick Dash is like, even some people even prefer Quick Dash over Extreme Dash. The reason is just that it's easier to control, you know, easier to grip on the stadium. But I think both are still, like, you could use either or. It's really just, it's one of those things where it's just personal preference. I think with that being said though, the driver section is done. Okay, now we're going to be starting off with our D section, which is Drake, starting us off. So, far too light. It does not have good outer weight distribution or stamina. Now, really what they were trying to do with Drake was sort of do this thing where it's really specifically designed for Zwei, where as opposed to align with the contact points and everything, really this doesn't make any sense and it doesn't really work out. Sometimes synergy can work, but not in this case. This idea was really more perfected with the 3A chassis with Rage Longinus. It's a useless thing to use for attack combos and too light. Moving on to Hurricane. Too small, doesn't have good outer weight distribution, and other discs have way better stamina in use. Its gimmick was kind of like Tornado... No, it was Tornado Wyvern. Yeah, just, like, listen, like, if you look at this thing compared to this thing, it is small. It does not have as good stamina as Sting, or really anything I would say that's above it. There's no point to use it. That's why this thing isn't... Now, in the B tier, we have Paradox. Now, Paradox... Now, there's two modes, and you can only use this... Now, you can use this mode on everything, but for the upwards mode, you can only use it on Naked. So with Paradox, it can kind of scrape on quite a few stuff. I think mainly this was used on, like, Left Master Paradox Rise. It's like niche use that's, like, fine. And when you want to use the upwards mode, you can only use that on the Naked Lair Base / Soul, I guess, if you want me to use that naming. And I guess kind of works for the defense. Again, very niche use for this, and it's just kind of there. It's just kind of there, but at least it kind of serves more of a purpose than the other ones. So to give a combination that can work well with Paradox, I'm going to give 2. You know, Left Master, and then after Paradox Rise or Mobius. I think Mobius pairs up nicely with Paradox. Again, this is catered towards opposite spin matchups. Okay, now moving on from B to A. The Around Disc. Now the Around Disc is a round disc. It has, I would say, good outer weight distribution on it. It has 4 metal balls on there. Really, this just pairs up nicely with Bearing, Extend Plus, Rise, stuff like that. It's a nice disc, and I'm really happy they actually made this disc. It's a very cool concept that works really well. So moving on from there, there is the Ratchet disc. So with Ratchet, I would say mainly just on Bearing. It is, I would say, also preferably an opposite spin. So, what is it? It's for right stuff, I think it's like fixed. And then after for left stuff, there is a free spin on it. Yeah, you can see. But then, yeah. Yeah, really just for opposite spin and like Bearing. And it's a nice disc to use. It's a nice disc to use for that kind of stamina stuff, I would say. Then after there is Convert. So Convert you don't really use for stamina because it has the issue of scraping. But what's really nice about Convert is that this is good for attack combinations. It's good for smacking and stuff like that. There are 2 modes. One mode where it is in balance, and then after, if you are to twist the disc around, you then after get this aligned. And really, this is just for attack combinations, like you can use this on Zwei, Convert, Quick Dash. With Vanguard, because Vanguard is kind of an S, for me it's either between S or A. I'll put it in S, but just so you know my thoughts. I think it's comparable to things that are like 10 wall, lift, but lift that's like downwards. I think it's better than Ratchet, mainly with Vanguard. I would say really just an opposite spin with bearing in specific, and sometimes it's just really the specific uses for the disc, but they just excel at it. You could also, I guess, pair up Vanguard with Rise if you wanted to, and I guess the same could maybe be said for Ratchet. You could. It's just a lot of factors that go into it. After that, Blitz and Sting are really just the same boats. These are both good for attack discs and stamina. Blitz has like this little claw thing, whatever. It's just a nice attack disc to use. And also, some discs also are very tight on Judgment. These are one of these discs. And yeah, it's just good for stamina attack. Sting has like the bounds. It's just good for stamina. It has good outer weight distribution. Also, you can use this for attack. They both have good all-around use. And so to go over to the GT layer weights, this is basically chosen by weight distribution, how heavy is it, and I guess maybe overall what you can use. Now, obviously, you know, some things are niche uses. Some things can work for specific layer bases, whatever, you know, keep that in mind. But it's just really to kind of understand. So, I mean, basically the rest of this section doesn't really need to get explained, but, you know, for the bottom section, it's Gen and it's Go. So for the bottom section, the reason why, no, Gen was a little rubber stopper and everything. It was like, oh, the burst resistance on this thing, because it's a rubber stopper. It's not that heavy and everything. It's a cool concept. I think this was really specifically just made for the Dread layer base. And Go was most certainly just really for Judgment. The weight distribution is all to one side, so it just makes things like super jumpy and everything. And then after with the other ones, it's just better stamina overall as we go to the top. Like, so is just whatever, it's pretty lightweight and everything. And then after you have Zan, Sen, and then after Retsu. And then after, the reason why I think Metsu and Ten are above is just really that it's generally heavier than these ones. But honestly, like, it's like interchangeable with this stuff. If you want to use whatever, you know, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but that's why they're right here. And obviously the best one at the top, which is Goku. I would say Goku has very good weight distribution. It is also the heaviest out of all of them. And I would say it's the best weight to really use for combinations. And that's really it for the GT weight section. Now, moving on to layer base. Finally, we're moving. Oh, I have one in hates. That's Erase. I'm not actually ranking this. Erase is garbage. It is garbage. Garbage. Okay. Oh, wow. Scene. Ace, Flare, Grand, Poison, Rock, Slash, Venom, Bushin, Speed, what's the name? Union Speed and Union Power, and Dread. Now, originally I had Dread in D, but I did think I am downplaying Dread a little bit. So let's just go one by one. We'll start from the end. So with Dread, Dread's issue is that without Gen, it bursts very easily. It's just very niche use. I think the shape isn't even that bad. It's just there are some layer bases where they decided just to have the thing raised, and it just screws with the burst resistance and overall use, and it really pisses me off when they do that, because it's such a stupid thing that they don't have, and they did this in Sparking with like Glide. It's such a stupid, it doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't even make any sense. And we're never gonna know, because they didn't do an updated mold of Dread. That's the thing. Some of these things got updated molds, and you know, some don't really improve. It's just a bad situation. No, Union Speed is just like, there's no way that thing is beating anything above it. Union Power it's not that consistent. I love Union, it's one of my favorite GT bays, but I can admit its faults. It's a cool idea and concept. It's just like, why do you use Union Power when you could just use Judgment or Imperial? So that's why it's there. Union is like niche use. Bishin, I don't even know if it was burst resistance per se. I think it's more just weight. And I think that's really just the same with all of these. By the end, no. We can sit here and say, oh, at the start of GT and at the middle of GT, you know, they're no. We're looking at this at the end of GT, when we reflect on it with all these parts. So unfortunately, that's the same goes for Venom. Slash, I think Rock and Grand may have had an updated mold, or one of these ones. I know Ace did get the updated mold of the burst stoppers, but just like for Venom / Rock, Grand, and Ace, I don't even want to talk about it. Just it's either too light or the shapes weren't that good for overall use. Poison was really sad though. I think the rubber, I don't even know how to improve. I think really it was just the stupid blocks on it. Poison has random rectangular square blocks on it that they just put for some reason. If it was more circular, it probably would be a lot more used. It's way too niche, and they try to do the thing with like shock absorption, but the weird thing is like Poison has like this hard sort of plasticky thing on the outside, but the inside I'm pretty sure it's like softer. I don't know why they did Poison so dirty, but they did. Flare's gimmick was kind of cool. It has this really weird shape though, and now like the metal balls and everything that I think was supposed to be like, I know this was used for stamina, but would you even use Flare for stamina? I think you would use Flare for like attack or something. Okay, B. Okay, so I had to give Heaven, you know, Heaven, when you get like the right chip and everything, same spin, because it is a circle shape. I do think it is effective enough or more consistent than whatever is at the bottom. I do think Heaven has the issue of burst resistance. It also has one of the dumbest gimmicks that do not work in real life. Its gimmick was essentially healing, where the wings will pop out once you get so many clicks, but when you hit it, it's supposed to heal. Now, the issue is that there's no goddamn way to ensure that your stupid wing gets hit so you can heal. So it is such a stupid gimmick that does not even work. It is a cool concept, and I gotta give them props for creativity, but it don't work. Knockout, it was just simply the weight. I think the shape wasn't even that, but they just made it so light. Wizard. Now, Wizard gets a lot of discredit to it. I do think it's a fine equalizer. I just think Lord is better than it, and Master is better than it in every possible way for equalization. And that's kind of it. And then after you basically just got all the infinite locks. Okay, so now we got the infinite lock layers. Now, all of these are extremely niche. Now, to first off explain how the infinite lock system works, it's the bay that can't burst. So until the layer actually gets to red, there's a weak point on each of them. When you hit it, releases. Now, the idea with the Big Bang armor, right? So this becomes Perfect Genesis, for an example. If I get this back on. So the idea with this is it's supposed to be harder to push, and it is a little bit harder to actually burst it. The reality is these things will never burst with or without the Big Bang armor. The Big Bang armor is just making it less likely. However, I would also say that you should only be using these with the Big Bang armor. I think to rank these from best to worst, the order goes Regalia, Big Bang, and then after Prime. So just to show, this is normal, and then after this would be, then after this is Perfect Genesis. This is normal Big Bang Genesis. Then after with the added Big Bang armor, Prime Apocalypse. And then after with the added Big Bang armor. And again, it's just really, what this armor is really doing is all these things have this little weird gap thing. It's just filling that in and giving them more of a roundish shape. It's just really more effective. But regardless, these are very niche use. I would mostly, like, you could maybe use this for attack. I would just say really for stamina. They have the issue with staggering. So what this basically means, for an example, is this makes contact here. It will rotate, but the bottom part will kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it'll hold for, like the layer will hold, and this will keep going, and it like staggers when it hits. I'm not the biggest fan, but again, niche use. So then after with A tier, you have Imperial / Command, Rights Master, Naked / Soul, Cosmic, Awakened Imperial, and then after Heaven, but only for opposite spin. Cosmic is a circle. Also, you wanna know what? On Hybrid / Ignition, and I've actually tested this out, it's pretty nice to use. It's just really because of the circular shape. I think pretty much you can say that for the same for like Heaven. Again, circular shape. Heaven for opposite spin is very, very, very nice to use because of the power of the circle. Now, Imperial has bound, whatever, but the thing is that I don't even know. Because the thing is, Imperial awakens pretty fast in battle, and it permanently awakens to that thing. And obviously, when it's permanently awakened, the wings are actually aligned on the main contact and stuff, and the rubber is exposed. It is a nice hard-hitting attack, and they did update the mold. And the thing is with updated molds, like, Wizard has the updated mold, and a lot of these lair bases have updated molds, and anytime the mold is updated, it's just for better burst resistance. And the original Imperial kind of was like, that's why some chips, I think, like Odin were used more, because it would kind of reach with the driver and everything, but I think with like Black Imperial and technically the Pro, which is based on the Black Imperial, you can basically just use any chip, I would say, that has good resistance on it. You don't have to specify to one chip. Naked, I think, opposite spin, solid enough. Same spin, it does the job. It's not perfect, but it does the job. Master, I think, is... Master Right is just... Same spin, it can do the job. Opposite spin, it can do the job. Equalizing, it's fine. And the thing is, with this one, the metal is outwards on it. And I know with Left Master, it's inwards. And then after an S, Tact, which will surprise. Tact, I actually... Very underrated, I would say, but also probably because it was locked in a random booster and hard to get. Very good left spin defense. It also had the gimmick where certain blades would pop out depending on what lair weight you have. And it's like such like a cool concept that integrates the weights, and also does work for defense stuff. Then after you have Left Master, good for defense and equalization. I think, I don't know if it's... I'm trying to think compared to Tact how good it was. I feel like they're both very solid, honestly. And yeah, I think good for equalization, good same spin, good opposite spin. Lord, it had the rubber on it, it had weight, good same and opposite spin for stamina / balance. And then after, I guess also defense anyway, just not attack. And then after there's Judgment, and Judgment is the best rat attack type I have seen for years to this date. Now, it has a rubber stopper, and certain discs can just really make it tight with the combination. Now, there's like the whole thing where it's like, oh, it's 50%, because one side's like crappy and the other side's like good. Listen, when it's tight, when you got a tight combo on this thing, that's all you need. Hits hard. And that's why I love the GT meta so much, because it's a fair balance between stamina, defense, and balance, and attack options, to where attack you can use, like, and it's so rewarding to use and everything, and I love it. I love it. And I think that's kind of it. Okay, so then after we got to the GT chips, now I've tried to be as fair as possible. Originally I had Ashura and Bahamut in C. I don't really like the locks on normal stuff, but it has been pointed out that on Dash stuff, maybe it's more preferable. Whatever, I think really just the chips either come down to just how the locks are and everything. So basically the B section is just kind of like, it's fine, whatever. The A section is where it's a lot better. And I don't think there's anything really notable. There's a lot of chips that are the reverse of another. Like Ashura has the reverse, which is Bahamut. Dragon 1 has the reverse, which is like Fafnir. And then after Valkyrie has the reverse, that is Longinus. And some teeth just have weird compositions, like Hydra. I do like Odin over Hydra. I don't think... These are just kind of like, you know, fine. I think Valkyrie is really fun to use on attack combinations. I do prefer more of the blocky, hard locks and everything. It's more of a personal preference thing, but I can see people's arguments for whatever. And I think at the top it's just, Achilles just has a very solid locks on the chip. Dragon 2 is the same, and Diabolos is good left and right spin, offering heavy weight because it is fused, and you can't use any layer weight because it is fused, like I said. And, you know, again, some of the times with the chips it's also personal preference, but generally overall that's what it is. So this is where we're going to be ending off the video. Now I think overall GT was a very solid, and I think like the peak for really like how the meta felt and everything, and use of this stuff. And I don't like how some things are handled with Pro, but at the very least, the cool thing now is that it's a good point of reference to kind of just like get more of a grasp of the idea with GT stuff and everything. And a lot of things don't need that much explanation, and that's the thing, because I could probably cover everything even more in depth, but I don't think that it's necessary. I think I covered good enough ground. And let me know your thoughts in the comments for GT combinations you tried out. What are some parts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Bump, lower? Let me know, but please keep in mind, keep it as an informed opinion. I think it's good. Like, I tested this was the results, and that's why I think maybe it could maybe be bumped higher or lower, you know, like that. The reason why I say this is a competitive tier list, and as much as some drivers might be for fun or really fun use, we also have to look at competitive overall. But that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. I have lost my voice going over all this stuff, but yeah, have an amazing day and bye.